All right, guys. Tonight we have something kind of special and different. Um, we're going to teach you how to knock out a man in a 2 seconds flat. Zine? We have a special instructor. Kyle the Mighty Chin. All right.
Yeah,
Kyle,
yeah.
what's up, man?
Blessings, but there.
All right.
Respect.
I want to thank you again for joining us. And guys, of course, Wade is in the building. Kyle, that record still stands?
Yeah. Yeah, as far as I know. As
As
far
far
as
as
I
you
know,
know.
2 seconds is the fastest knockout in combat history.
Okay, and that is faster than Masvidal and Askren.
Yeah, man. 'Cause that was like 3 seconds.
Okay, so
I
you
think
say
it's actually
go on, Tuna.
because what it's funny. It's funny the way they counted Masvidal
Yeah,
because he did the flying knee, and to me,
yeah,
once that flying knee connected, he was out,
yeah.
and they could have stopped the timer there, but they didn't. They stopped the timer after he landed a couple more shots, and the
Oh,
referee got in and separated them.
okay.
So
So
it's probably like 5 or 6 seconds is what the end result is.
okay, so walk us through your one now, so the people can understand the difference. Cause I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put
Well,
it in there now.
well, it's a funny thing, because that fight, literally the day before, so the weigh-ins happens the day before the fight, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, everybody has to like dehydrate or whatever and make a certain weight class, and then them yam only for food and drink only for water for the day after.
yeah,
So the weigh-ins now, on that day I get a call that my opponent pulled out of the fight
yeah.
for whatever reason. I don't remember. I think it might have been. Well, I can't remember what that reason was. But him pull out of the fight. All right. So then find this new opponent. Some guy, step up, some brave soul, and say they take the fight on 1 day's notice, which is beyond ridiculous. Ready?
Yeah.
I'm there training for my opponent for like 2 months. You see
Yeah.
me? This man just gonna jump up and take a fight in a day's notice.
Yeah,
And this guy is actually walking around lighter, so it was easy for him to make weight. Him
Okay.
lighter. Anyway, so the fight come now. I don't know what to expect from this guy.
yeah,
I mean, there's no footage I can find, there's no nothing, you know what I mean? So anyway, we're in the ring now, the cage. The first thing I notice is that him a little bit smaller than me.
yeah.
So I say, all right. So them go so boom and ring the bell, and homeboy just came straight at me. Like him just hopped across the ring,
Yeah,
across the cage, and he threw a left hook. Or it was a right hook. He threw a right hook, so he's standing in southpaw.
yeah,
And I just dipped under and threw the overhand right.
yeah.
And it just touched the button.
Mm.
And it was stiff as a board.
Okay. I say referee
Yeah,
said no
man.
more. Referee
No,
said
man, the referee never said nothing.
Yeah, man.
The referee never said nothing.
it's a one it a
Hey,
quitter.
when a man plank out, human plank and touch the ground, there's nothing else to do it. I mean, and I didn't bother follow up
That
because,
doesn't plank because it's as if him bounce off your fist, so him just
yeah.
boom, and just hit the mat,
And that's the thing,
Yeah.
like, beyond the fact that I'm hitting hard, the fact that he was coming forward to meet the punch
Yes.
just
He walked
doubles
right
the
into
impact.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, walk right into it. And I mean, I wish him all the best. I saw him like maybe 2 years later, and
Yeah.
him come heal me up and thing and say, "Oh, him still look to me." I'm like, bro, come on, man. More love to you. You know what I mean?
But
Yeah,
at least
look,
we
man,
know
what
that
do you
he
know?
experienced.
Hey, I tell you one thing, hey, you can't, don't never a man like that
Yeah.
is a dangerous man because he will
Yeah,
have
that
that heart.
chip on
in
his
him, like,
shoulder.
yo, that is a killer right there. Like the man afraid of nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No,
Straight.
big respect to him. Big respect to him.
All right. definitely. I'm big respect for you because that's something where you know what I mean. It to be proud of, even though the circumstances were not ideal, probably in your mind,
Yeah,
not the ideal opponent. But you know what I mean. That's something where you have
Yeah,
on your name right now, where a man have to do that in a 1 second flat or 1.5. Yeah, I mean, so kudos.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, give it time.
Guys, so let me explain something to you about Kyle now. Zine, Kyle is a man where he's an athlete. not just a fighter. This man is an athlete. You have a background when you start off in a squash. You represent the country and win medals on an international level. You want to explain
man.
a little bit?
Well, it's my pops, my pops used to play squash and thing. I used to captain Jamaica team. So
Yeah.
I, as a youth, came up playing.
Yeah,
And but it's as I enjoyed it,
yeah,
and I really enjoy competition because I've always been very competitive. Like that's as a nature, I'm just very competitive. You see me?
yeah,
So I was competing and thing, but it was during that time where you just buck puberty and them thing there, bruh. So it was even though I was like loving the sport,
hmm,
I really never took it as seriously as like how I took fighting.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was like it was just something I loved and I could travel with it. So I don't know where I go Colombia, where I go Philadelphia, where I go, you know what I mean? All over the place, like all over the Caribbean. I went every, Barbados, Bahamas, Bermuda, Cayman, Trinidad and Tobago, you know what I mean? All for squash. So Guyana. So it was definitely a very welcome experience and it was a big part of developing me as a person. And definitely one thing that I think squash really, really gave me was the ability to be cool under pressure.
yeah,
Because I was playing on these big platforms and in front of, big crowds and whole heap of pressure situations, it
mm,
really made me kind of shine in front of a crowd. Like, so, when we go out there now and we're fighting on the big stage, I wasn't like completely in shell shock.
yeah,
And I enjoyed that kind of limelight, which, trust me, make a big difference because a lot of guys, you would train and in the training room, you look amazing.
yeah,
But when you're under the pressure or you go under the bright lights, it's like man gets starstruck and you
yeah.
know they're in headlights.
It's something you have to get used to.
Yeah, for
Even
sure.
yeah, because I can identify as somebody who never really comfortable in front of a camera. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it take a while until it becomes natural. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
for
It's
sure.
funny. I would have thought that maybe the cardio conditioning for squash should be the biggest carry over to your MMA career.
Uh,
But it's interesting that it's the
the
ability to
mental,
perform under pressure.
The
That's
mental.
yeah,
that's the biggest takeaway.
it's always the mental. Because the thing is, the truth is, the squash condition is so different, bro. Like there's nothing quite like fighting. Like the closest I can say in terms of conditioning that comes to the way we condition for fighting is CrossFit. Like that's the closest thing I can say because it's about being explosive while having muscle endurance, while having lungs and stamina and actual cardiovascular fitness. So like bodybuilding, there's no fitness involved in bodybuilding in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like when them man they come in at the gym, bodybuilders, them are the quickest for muscle because there's so much muscles and oxygen pump into everything and there's not a lot of cardio. And bodybuilders will tell you they don't do a lot of cardio because they need to build fat.
yeah,
But like when you look at how CrossFitters train, that's the kind of training. Like so, squash players would have that kind of they have great cardio, but what they're lacking now is the explosivity in the muscle power and stuff like that, which
yeah,
which you need. You know what I mean? Like you need to be able to hit hard or to even with your takedowns to like get in there quick and really power through a takedown. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah,
So it was really about the mental that really carried over from squash.
nice.
Wade, you wanted to
Yeah.
follow up with because we were speaking earlier, and Wade had a question for you about your style of fight coming from a Muay Thai background. You wanted to get into that?
Well, yeah, it was very interesting for us as a Jamaican to have a background in Muay Thai. Normally the most common martial art in Jamaica is karate. So
Karate.
it was
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
to
yeah.
see you actually found Muay Thai. And
Well,
did you train locally? Is there a dojo out here that you're affiliated with?
so let me first correct you. It's not Muay Thai that my background is in. So even though I dabble in Muay Thai and I've trained Muay Thai, my main background is actually Chinese kickboxing, which is Sanda or
Okay.
Sanshou. And it's very similar. So like it's easy to mistake the two. And they
Okay.
actually have quite a few videos online of Sanda versus Muay Thai and things like that. So what the Chinese military training in Sanda. And what it is we go for takedowns and knockouts, right? But once we take you down, so that, you know, in Muay Thai they have trips and throws.
Yes.
In Sanda, we go for full-on takedowns, and then you stand up and we go again. Or we try to push off of the platform. And so how the Sanda competes is they're actually on a raised platform, and you're doing kickboxing on the platform, and there's like the old kung fu movies that you see with them up on that platform and them fighting and them on that try to kick off next man. That's where it originated from. But so we go for the knockouts. We don't use elbows. That's a big difference. We don't use elbows, and we don't knee to the head in Sanda. So you can knee to the body and all that. And we use a lot of leg kicks. We use the toes, all of that.
Yeah.
But that's a major difference. So of course, because it's MMA, now once you started to train MMA, we start to involve the elbows and the knees to the head in the training. And that was with my coach at Iron Lotus Academy, the same place that I, have my origins with Sanda and Chinese kickboxing.
So
that's where the kung fu is there.
Iron Lotus was predominantly Muay Thai. So you're saying they're really Chinese kickboxing?
No, it's Sanda. Yeah, it's Chinese kickboxing. It's Chinese kickboxing.
Okay.
Sanda, but Muay Thai is one of the things that they've incorporated, because really what they're about, even though they're originally a kung fu school, what they're really about is the entire martial arts. So, they'll involve self-defense, they involve Muay Thai, they involve grappling, the full gamut.
Because what's funny is that I was going to segue into another question, but you actually answered my segue question with the Chinese kickboxing, because I was going to ask you, with a background in Muay Thai, why is your ground game so good? Right? That bare naked, was it on Sion Elder?
Yeah.
First of all, that set up from the suplex. You set it up from the suplex, then you got his back. And then I don't even know how. No, you got his side. And then you transitioned into his back, and then boom, you got that choke on him. That was very impressive. So I was going to ask you if you did some jiu-jitsu training, because your ground game is so good. And then even in the match with Collins was calling you to the ground. I don't know if I think Muay Thai on your bio is tricking people, because I don't think they expect you to have such a good ground game. Because Collins was calling you to the ground, and then when you met him on the ground, you destroyed him. So when watching this in the game, I was saying, boy, this guy must have some jiu-jitsu or some wrestling, because your ground game is very good. And I noticed even when they close the distance with you, instead of covering up, you instantly go for a takedown. You instantly go for the body. And that type of, it seems instinctive. And that's why I thought you had some sort of jiu-jitsu or wrestling training.
Yeah, no, well, so firstly, my same coach, Sifu Matthew All, I learned quite a bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from him, or Chinese grappling. And I've also trained with several other people, so there's a camp called, is it Ruthless, Rough House, Ruthless. Radcliffe Cunningham and Shaheen Blake, who is the amateur lightweight champion from RFL. They have a camp, and they used to bring in, and it was under the banner of Combat Sports JA. And we're going to end up talking about some of these banners, because you have MMA Sports Federation, you have Combat Sports Jamaica, and they used to bring in, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. So I've trained with some of these black belts. I've had several training partners who trained abroad. I've had a training partner in Mumbai who Hybrid Athletics. Shout out to Casri, Bulldog, Cass Cassell, and he's a very experienced Jiu-Jitsu player and MMA fighter who I've trained with quite a bit too. So it's about learning, and you move around and you learn from different people. Even Go Lion, Matthew Calhoun, train with them Monday, and you always get to learn as you go. And Randy Brown, UFC fighter Randy Brown, when he comes down, I always link up and we do some, because he's really good at BJJ, so, learn from him. But mainly my wrestling, which is something I really enjoy training. Kevin Wallen, Jamaican guy, lives here. He's a fitness coach, ex-bodybuilder, competed for Jamaica at Commonwealth Games in wrestling at the age of 50. Like,
Really?
yeah, man, just an absolute beast of a man. He's actually a very, very interesting character. He now has a motivational segment on the radio, all kind of things. He's a life coach, fitness coach, health coach. But yeah, Kevin Wallen is hardcore in the wrestling, so I'll always be, training wrestling with them on there. And it's one of those things that it's just, you want it to be instinctive. Because I realized long time in MMA that, bro, if you don't have a ground game, like, what's the point? Like, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
You kind of have to be able to go anywhere that opponent is uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
And I realized that when one of my favorite fighters is Usman out of Nigeria.
Man, Kamaru,
yeah. And that is why I rate him. Is that when people thought he was all ground game, he worked on him weakness and he got nice with the hands.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Really nice.
Yeah. So that is something that I think is definitely, if you're going to go to the top of this game, you have to be not even just an all-rounder, but you have to kind of be excellent ground game, grappling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's why Usman is so good. Usman is a scholar of the game. He really studies it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I hardly miss a Usman fight, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
That's why it's so impressive nowadays when you see man like Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
And a Khabib, who are so extremely good at their specialties.
What?
That it's like, but as we saw with Izzy, got exposed against Blachowicz. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because, we understand why, because of the size difference and all of that. Yeah. But the fact is that a man can do it, and it's a weakness that we all know exists. It's just that nobody could exploit it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Kyle, you have a record of 3-0, right? Professional record, that is, right? What's your overall record?
So I only did 3-1 in amateur.
Yeah.
And then 3-0 in thing. And then 3-0 in kickboxing.
Okay.
So 3-0 kickboxing, 3-1 amateur, and then 3-0 professional.
Okay.
So I actually started late in it, which is the other thing. Like I started training at 29.
Wow.
I started competing in MMA. I think I must have been like 32.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I went pro at something like 35. And honestly, if it wasn't for COVID, I would have had more fights. But I'm 39 now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I really, which is why the record is so short.
Yeah. That was something I wanted to get into further on in the interview, but since it's already come up, it's like, how do you find it, like training in a pandemic with the restrictions and all of that? And even you said it is, you can't get a fight.
Yeah, brother, it's definitely difficult, and especially I'm gonna talk especially more about the in general the whole industry, because so what would happen is that you generally have camps, right? And in a camp you'd have maybe at least 5 serious fighters. You know what I mean? You're gonna have other people who train and do this for fitness or do this for self-defense, but you have like at least 5 guys who are like all about it. My camp where I train, when I started, it was like 3 of us. It was like 3 of us who were like serious about it, but we had some other guys who were pretty good, and they were really just about the training. Over the time, just by circumstance, like one of my biggest training partner was my weight, who was better than me at striking when we started, and he was better than me all around when we started, and helped my development a lot. A guy named Jovan Gale, a doctor, and he actually moved to Florida.
Yeah.
So he moved, and then a couple of my training partners just kept moving. I had an training partner who moved to Mandeville, and it's just things like that. So just circumstance.
Yeah.
So what I would do is just move around to different camp, but I would generally stay in my camp, do a lot of training at my camp, do my wrestling with my wrestling coach, and so on and so on. And then COVID comes along, and then what you find is that people are now in their bubbles.
Yeah.
And even within those bubbles, like certain training camps, I noticed I go by there and them guys stop training grappling because you don't know grappling is extra.
Yeah.
You see me? Like at my gym, we weren't sparring or grappling at all for a while because people were worried about contact and everything.
Yeah.
But the
So
fighters, fighters, like within the camps, like the serious fighters are gonna just train. They're gonna take the risk and they're gonna do it. Like they're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
So you find that, you know, one of our pros, like us guy, big Gold Lion, Matthew Calhoun, he was, you know, I go train with him and them just a train. Or them have to do it. And they have a good group of guys. I think their camp is called Lion Pride.
Yeah.
Lion Pride MMA. And it's a, you know, I go down there and spar with them and train with them a couple of times or one time. And you know, it's maybe like 8 guys. But you know that's what they, you know, them stick to that bubble and them just a train and they're waiting for the call. So now Matthew just left and is now in America. I can't remember which state he's in, but he after having some difficulty here, and I don't want to speak for him, but it, you know, I know that this was a thing that he was struggling with, was having training partners at his level who he can consistently train with. So even me, I couldn't consistently train with it.
Yeah.
You see me? So he had to go fly up and you know, just stay with a camp and train just to keep that consistency and that you know, hardcore drive. The brother who I was telling you about, Imran, you know, him over Spanish Town, so he's now he's a part of that Lion Pride camp, and them guys, I'm sure things have, especially now with lockdown days, things have become much more difficult for them. You know what I mean? So the man them just have everybody kind of just doing their own thing, trying to keep their fitness up. But you will never be as sharp if you can't have, you know, proper training camp with several people to train with who can push you or you can push each other. Yeah, the sparring especially, like that's a big deal, man. Like if you don't have people on your competency level,
you
can make, you know, push you can't. You actually you lose your sharpness.
Yeah.
Because you know you don't have to react as fast or you don't have to work as hard to hit the other person. Like, so it's a thing, man. It's definitely a struggle for sure.
Wade?
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I really didn't think COVID would have affected the sport on that level. I wasn't even thinking about the training and how even, you know, how mat work would be so risky because you really are breathing into each other, you know. But speaking of diseases, you know, you yourself have your own ailments. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for your bio, I wouldn't have known of this autoimmune disease. Right. Is it something that you consider yourself an ambassador for, to highlight and bring attention to it? And how does that affect your training? Because it's almost like an arthritic disease. So does it affect you in training?
So it's funny, until you said it a while ago, I don't know if I ever consider myself an ambassador for it, but I guess in some ways I am, because a lot of people would never have heard of it before I talk about it. So it's called adult onset Still's disease. It's an autoinflammatory disease, and because it's autoinflammatory, it comes with rheumatoid arthritis, as you mentioned, and because it's autoimmune, when I flare up or when it's happening, I'm very susceptible to all kind of anything. You know what I mean? Your immune system just low. So I mean, when this hit me, and I didn't, before it hit in 2012, I legit had no idea that anything was wrong with me or anything would be wrong, right? But what I've realized over the years, and it was very rare, it's a very rare disease, and when I contracted it, they really had very little information on it. Over the time now, I can see that more information has come out, and you know, them really starting to compile some knowledge, which is good. So like things like whether it goes into remission or disappears completely, unknown, Like you won't know if it's gone completely until it come back again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it operates with me. So it goes into remission, and I'm perfectly fine, and I train hard and I go on. But what I've found is, so it has come out of remission a couple times with me, and what I've found is that it happens when my body is just pushed to the limit. So if I have a training camp, so like that's 2 months of hardcore training, like hardcore, your body getting beat up, your muscles sore, so inflammation is a thing in the body, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of work to try to control the inflammation, but you don't know it's how it goes. And then you have the fight. And then after the fight, this is just me. I tend to celebrate. So I'll be like, maybe like a month of celebration or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'll be drinking hard and partying and you know what I mean? So then I go straight into, so that's what happened. I went back straight into a training camp.
Yes.
And then I was training hard again. So we're gone back from the training. So my body wasn't really given a chance to like rest and recover and recuperate.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't eating necessarily, the best food and all that. And then I get a flare up. And then, then wife get vexed and put me on regime and you don't know, I have to eat properly and cut out the drinking, cut out all that. So it's definitely, so I've learned now that once I'm pushing my body to a limit, I have to kind of like be very careful. And I know now the signs when it's coming on. So I just kind of take it easy when I feel like I'm going too hard,
Yeah.
All right. Well, you definitely are an ambassador tonight because you made me aware of the disease and now you're making everybody on YouTube aware. So,
Yeah, right.
You might as well hold on to the honorary ambassador title.
I'll take it. Yeah, man, for sure.
And go and take care of yourself and just go and make sure that you don't push yourself to that limit where you know what I mean it comes back again. You have a quite impressive record in especially mixed martial arts. You hardly see a undefeated fighter or a fighter that has a record that's probably like 9-1 overall, right?
Well, I guess,
yeah, that is quite impressive. That's the kind of records that you see like at the top level people, you know what I mean? With that though, it's like, how do you find the level of competition, seeing that it's a relatively like a newer sport, although we do produce we produce good fighters, you know what I mean?
So here's the thing. So especially my amateur career, I was all in the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
I've competed in Trinidad twice, Bahamas once, and in Dominican Republic once. And I find the competition is, it is like a developing sport. So but what you would tend to see, and this was a difference that I noticed, and it was happening in Jamaica at the time too, is that the striking sports were very prevalent in all of these islands. So like Jamaica, you don't know, boxing and taekwondo and karate, very popular from long time, foundation sports. Same thing with some of these other islands. But Trinidad actually has set up BJJ franchises there. We still don't have, but they have set up BJJ franchise in Trinidad where you can go and train under a black belt, right? So that was a big difference. And then you had Dam Rep. So the guy I fought in Dam Rep was Pan American gold medalist at wrestling. No, judo.
Yeah.
He was a judo gold medalist, and then he also does wrestling. So that his skill set now and his level of competition was different. Very different. And that was the fight I lost. It was the hardest fight. We went to decision, win all 5 rounds, and it was probably the greatest learning experience of my life.
Just a curious question, a fun question. So, what would be your dream competitor main event fight? So We've gone past the rocky road. We've built the reputation. You're out there. You get a main event. Who you want to step into the ring with? Who is the dream fight for you?
You mean like fantasy level, like UFC level?
Yeah, man, definitely. Fantasy level, Caesar's Palace, pay-per-view. The big show. Main event.
Good one.
Prime card.
That would be a good fight for me too. I don't know. That's a tough one. I say I don't know why Nate Diaz popped into my head a while ago.
Really? Hey, that goes to show.
Just because, like, it's gonna be fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's gonna be fun. Like, I'm not a man. I've never been afraid of it. You see me? I don't say so. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if you're gonna hit me. So like, to fight a man like Nate, that would just be dope. Don't slug it out, cause them man they not take it to the ground, you see me? I mean, once it goes to the ground, and which would probably be my only, no, it wouldn't be no advantage for me, to be honest. Like, I mean, them man the levels above, you see me? As I, but yeah, that would have been a dream fight.
That would be it.
I think it would just be fun.
Well, shout out to the Diaz camp. Look out, right?
Yeah, man, you don't know.
You're first Adam
So nice.
We're coming for you, Diaz.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw this thing. What them do is like this Eastern European mixed martial art team thing. This long ring. That's that.
You talking about Thermopylae?
Yeah.
Brother, you long toss, bro.
Long ring. 4 man in the ring.
Yo,
have you ever seen it?
It's the best thing you'll ever watch, and it's like a whole drama because on YouTube them have like first round, second round, right up to the end, bro. It's
like tournament style, right? 4 dudes in the ring, right? And you have some man, and so there's levels to the thing. I've seen one where one guy just ran through like 3 man.
Oh my
no
God.
time. And the only reason why I'm never do number 4 is because I'm get tired.
Right after the
Imagine, them Russians crazy, bro. Like, the Russians always come up with some kind of madness, because the whole team MMA thing, is Russians come up with that, man.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I spent like 5 hours watching that the first day I found it, bro.
Yeah, man, me too.
Yo,
crazy,
bro. Yo. Like there's a
word of team MMA.
Yeah.
It's such a strategy, because like what them do is as them take out one man, them gang up now and gang up and then gang up and it's very rare that you see a man take out a couple man, like, you know what I mean? But I've seen it, like at least
no, you have one, where you have everybody in the ring, I go at it one time,
Yeah.
You have that one. And then you have the one where they go one at a time.
So the Thermopylae where you attack, that one is kickboxing there,
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't grapple.
Right. So like them have it's just like a long thin ring, so it's rope,
Yeah.
And like 2 man them fight, and you can choose when to. No, you can only tap out after you get knocked out.
Yeah.
Like 1 man will knock out, like go back to back and then fight until a man get knocked out or whatever. So you see 1 man staying there the whole time sometimes.
Yeah, if him tired, he might take a knee or just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like tagging the opponent, but brutal, bro. And them man,
do yourself a favor and look up that shit. It's amazing. Thermopylae
What's it called?
That came from Thermopylae. Remember 300?
Yeah.
Movie 300?
Right.
Yeah.
So Thermopylae was the part.
Oh,
that narrow part. That's why the name is Thermopylae.
Yo. When we're done, you have to watch that, bro.
I'm going to.
Trust me, you might not sleep tonight.
You're not gonna sleep because the adrenaline pumping.
Yeah. Now, I see this thing now going where, in my opinion, I'm not really a big fan of it, but it's something what me and Wade talk about all the time. This reality TV boxing, the celebrity boxing thing where we say kind of come in now. I don't know. I feel like it devalue boxing because like I'm a hardcore boxing fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We love MMA and thing, but the knowledge when I have a boxing is not where I have a MMA. You know what I mean? Wade more of a MMA man than me. You know what I mean? as you can
Right,
see in
right.
the background.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed.
Little baby gloves there, you know what I mean? I have champs coming up, you know. So what's your opinion on this new craze now with the Logan Paul fight? Like,
Well,
Mayweather.
the first thing I want to say is that it's not new.
yeah,
That's the thing, you know. It's always existed. It's always existed because boxing, at the end of the day, all combat sports, at the end of the day, are spectator sports. It's all about
Yeah.
entertainment value.
Show business.
And I don't know if you remember when Oscar De La Hoya and Shaq did a match. I don't know if you remember when Muhammad Ali and this Japanese wrestler did a match.
I don't know.
Yeah, man, check that one out because they call it MMA versus boxing, but
Yeah,
I mean, it kind of is, but the guy was just not good.
yeah,
So he kept trying to leg kick Ali, but the way he was leg kicking him was to like slide on the ground and kick his leg. It's real annoying, but you should watch it.
yeah,
There's always been exhibition matches where you take a popular personality and put them in there.
yeah.
I don't necessarily think it devalues boxing. What it does is I think I can understand why people are worried about it devaluing boxing. But it reminds us all of what boxing really is about. And it's about the eyes. It's about how many eyes you can get looking, and that's where it's gonna bring the money.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's the difference now. It's the money that's behind it.
Yeah. But you see, the thing is, so what used to disturb me was like, so what started this recent craze was KSI versus another
KSI.
YouTuber.
Yeah,
Right? Even before he fought Logan Paul, he fought this other English YouTuber.
yeah,
And when I saw the production level of these two YouTubers fighting,
yeah,
I was blown. Like, I couldn't believe that these were YouTubers and they didn't have no holy for skill, which is what was the annoying part. They didn't have no holy for skill, they didn't have no.
and the crowd.
But the crowd was massive, the press was massive, the venue was massive, the production quality was big. But then, guess what? I started to observe the whole scene.
Mhm.
When I look on YouTube now, so there's a thing called Rough and Rowdy.
Yeah,
See? And this is out in like South. This is a redneck situation where the man them just put boxing gloves on
In the yard.
random who feel say them big and bad. But it's not in the yard, like it's them set up now, man. Them have them built, you know what I mean? So you have Rough and Rowdy, you had street beef, you had you know, everywhere, all across the world, their YouTube is exploding with these backyard situations, just like how Kimbo Slice was big.
yeah,
Coming from the street fighting and so on, bare knuckle boxing. These backyard fights where guys are not necessarily very skilled,
yeah,
but they're tough and they're going in to knock each other out. So you're guaranteed action.
yeah,
And that guaranteed action is what is easy for casual observers to appreciate.
yeah,
When a casual observer is watching very skilled boxers box, they're not necessarily appreciating the intricacies of what's happening, the footwork, the flipping. You know what I mean? They're not really, and then the fact that these guys are going for points, they're using strategy. They're not necessarily trying to knock each other out,
It's not
and we're not getting that. Right. So for them, it's not as entertaining.
yeah,
So what we've done is we've taken the two worlds now. We've taken these guys who are just not that great and they're going in there to try to knock each other out.
yeah,
And we're marrying it now with guys who actually have skills. And what my boy Jake Paul, and I don't know why I said my boy because I don't like him, but what Jake Paul is doing is he's now taking it serious. And he's putting in training and he's refining himself and he's actually now, and I mean, what people have to understand, Jake Paul had money before he started doing it, which is a big difference. So like people like to criticize, you know, combat sports and talk all kind of shit. The reason Jake Paul can do all of this is because he had money before he started.
yeah,
So he can get the best training and he can, you know, put up all of these the promotion and all of these things.
yeah,
Whereas guys who are struggling can't get to do that because they're not having the eyes, the exposure,
exactly.
and all of these things. But the guys, there are guys out here who are way more skilled than a Jake Paul. Way more.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? Sakima Mullins, Kamal Russell, Ricardo Plant. Like, you have guys who are just massive skill sets. But at the end of the day, personality, so that asshole personality, playing the heel, just like
Yeah.
why we love WWE and all of these things,
Yeah.
that's what's getting people excited about watching people. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you have to be a Conor McGregor, you have to be a Nate Diaz, you have to be a, you know, Jorge Masvidal, or a,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't even mention Jorge and Nate in
Mm.
that because their magnetism is different. It's because of how real they
Yeah.
are.
They
Yeah.
are, yeah.
They're not fake. They're not fake
Yeah.
like the Jake Paul. They're not fake like the
They're
Conor
not putting on
McGregor.
a show.
You
It's
know what I
really
mean?
that's really them. That's really their
Right.
personality.
That's really them. So that's a little bit different. But
Yeah.
they're when people see them and see what they're able to accomplish with
Yeah.
their personalities, that's why they become fake. That's why
Yeah.
they're like, oh, if I act like this guy,
Yeah.
then maybe I'll get more attention. And this is what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
So do you think it's unfair that you know, like you say, you have guys who take this craft serious, they put in the time to study it and work their way up and build a decent amateur record to get fights, but then you just have a famous YouTuber who already has the clout who can just, you know, arrange a fight and get almost a pay-per-view level.
All
event.
fair. All fair in love and war, brother.
Okay,
And here's the
alright,
thing.
I like that. I like that.
Jake Paul, like, he's training. He's actually training. And you know what? He was very smart. Very smart. You know him come out with this thing, you know, and strategic. First him say, all right, I'm going to take on another athlete.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then just done him. And then him say, oh, let me take on a retired, smaller wrestler, but who happens to be an MMA champion.
Yeah.
Right? In Ben Askren. Right? Who's never, like, Ben has never even phased somebody with a punch. Never.
We
Like,
know that.
never-
That's why it's so
Ne-
frustrating
man.
to watch. Like, why would you want to watch that?
Which is also why I don't think people need to stop trying to act as if these guys are representing MMA. They're not representing MMA.
Mm.
And it doesn't, or I shouldn't say that. I should say that it doesn't reflect on MMA.
Yeah.
It doesn't reflect on MMA. Because people now talk about how Anderson Silva just beat Julio Chavez Jr. We don't hear nobody talk about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anderson Silva outboxed a boxing champion.
I need to go watch
you know
that.
what I mean?
I need to go watch it.
that
Watch
just
that way.
won like 2 weeks ago.
You see him that way?
Like,
No, I didn't even hear about that.
yeah, man.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
thing, it never got this huge promotion. It never got
Yeah.
the huge promotion again. But that was a massive thing to happen.
Kyle,
yeah,
you have to
like-
know about these things so we can do the watch alongs.
Yeah, man. I think once a man them take it serious and
Yeah.
them doing thing and
Yeah.
and he's being strategic, just like what I was talking about before about choosing fights. There's
Yeah.
no reason why Jake Paul should be fighting a pro boxer with any kind of big record.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he only has 3 pro fights. He has
Yeah.
1 amateur fight and 3 pro fights. I think he's 4
Okay.
now with Tyron. So there's no reason why this man with 3-0 or 4-0 should take on any boxing champion. You hear them talk about Canelo. Oh, the blood fire man for a fight Canelo, brother. Like,
And you try and look at man life right there.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean. Speaking
No,
of which,
sense.
you see what I'm to Pac-Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was some serious
Yeah,
damage,
I
bro.
don't know.
I don't think you would
Yeah.
expect that from you guys.
No, he didn't. And you see, the thing is, bro,
I don't
like,
think anybody expected that, actually.
yo, age is real, bro.
Yeah,
Age is real. Like, it's real. And the fact is, the man is a politician, bro. You
yeah,
cannot tell me that he can dedicate the kind of time and energy to boxing that he was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like, it's just not possible.
in my opinion, I think he dodged a bullet there, boy, when Errol's eye got sick. Cause Errol and my
Yeah,
fight, boy,
Bro,
if Errol did a
Errol-
lick him, boy, a hospital. That
Yeah,
man, I
man.
tell you, a hospital,
Yeah.
man, because if thing they deal with him, so you know what I mean?
You see me?
But-
No, them man, they're no joke, bro. Them man, they're on the pound for pound list. You see me? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
At the yard man strength, you know.
Is it? Yo, I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
Serious?
Think that man, Errol Spence Jr. Yeah,
Is
man.
who? Him father and mother?
Not born Jamaica, but his dad is born in Jamaica.
Yeah. Yo.
Yeah, man. Very strong in our culture. Him there every year, probably a couple times a year. Him own land out here. All of them things, man.
Bro.
Yeah,
I
man.
can't believe I never know that. Okay, load him up on my page, on MMA Jamming page. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
man. Yo, you know, I'm a man where like me inner them thing that yo, like from you have the Jamaican blood, man support you, you know what I mean?
Bro, that's the whole reason I started MMA Jamming, because I wanted to highlight the Jamaican fighters,
Yeah.
boxers and kickboxers and MMA fighters who are just doing things big and
Yeah.
competing all over the place.
Quick question. While we're speaking about Jamaican fighters, Leon Edwards. You feel like him waste some time with Dana White? Like, why can't this man get a fight? Like, how many fights has he had in like what, 3 years or what?
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. Kinda, man, kinda. Like, I kinda do think so, but at the end of the day, what are his options? You know what I mean? In a big way, that's a big show. UFC is still a big show. Like, PFL does really well and pays really well for their tournament. Bellator does well and pays well. But and the truth is that PFL and Bellator and one championship treat the fighters better.
Yeah.
But are you gonna move to Singapore? Are you gonna move to Asia to fight for one championship? Are you gonna, you know what I mean? Like, how much are you gonna change your life? And you're already in the big show. You're already top 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You kind of just have to. It sucks, man, but you're gonna have to just kind of play the game and just try wait it out. You know what I mean?
One
but he has to
championship
make
seems
strategic moves.
to really attract a lot of people though, because they have that Russian girl. They have the what's that big thick black guy Nangan.
Oh, and no.
I think he's Dutch.
I don't remember his name, but I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna rate him enough.
No, I know.
No, that man there, he really full of gimmicks and love show off, but when him come against top quality competition, him always lose.
And I don't know why him lean on him kicks too much, and he's not that good of a kicker.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Just
but one championship seems to really have a good international pool. That is what I'm really impressed.
They do.
About.
But they treat their fighters well.
Okay.
That's what it is. They treat their fighters well and they pay decent. So, you know, the only reason not to go there is if you don't want to move to Asia. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Demetrius Johnson, the GOAT, down over there. You know what I mean?
I think that's a great option. You know what I mean?
It is a great option, for sure. Yeah. If you don't mind uprooting your whole life and moving to Asia. Like, I don't mean people do it. People, you know, you move for work in every occupation. So.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
Definitely. Anything before we wrap up with?
No, it was a real pleasure to meet you and, you know, keep representing for Jamaica and doing us proud out there, you know. Yeah, man.
Appreciate it. I definitely I wanted to shout out RFL MMA, which is the organization I fought with, or I'm the champion of. That was one of the other big effects of COVID, is that we weren't able to locally host any more shows.
Yeah.
After really being on a run, but I know that things are happening. I know Alik wanted to talk a bit about the scene. We never really got there, but like in terms of like development, I know that MMA Jamaica, I saw recently that they had purchased a cage, so I know they will probably want to start putting on stuff. Combat Sports JA and RFL MMA were doing like these kickboxing / MMA shows called Storm Surge. Even during COVID, they kind of stopped now, but we know that after things do stop, we have at least 2 organizations that are going to be able to be putting on events and putting on, you know, competitions and so on. And really, that's the only way to really grow the sport, is that we have to be able to compete. You know what I mean? Especially amateurs, because it's not easy for amateurs to get to travel and compete. So if you can compete locally and build your record and build your experience, that's the greatest thing. I want to shout out MMA Jamaica Sport Federation, because they do a lot of work with Fight for Peace.
Yeah.
It's something I really respect with them. Fight for Peace is an NGO, international NGO. I think it started out in Brazil, and they really work on, you know, basically it's an initiative to take inner city youth and teach them martial arts or teach them
Yeah.
boxing in order for them to kind of
I've
step away
seen it.
from gang violence and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
I really
give
want to
them
big them up
avenue
on
out.
South Fight. Yeah, they give them an avenue, give them discipline, give them self worth.
Yeah. And Imran is the one that also works with them out of Spanish Town, right?
Right. So Imran, who is now kind of Spice Town MMA, the face of Spice Town MMA,
Yeah.
I'm trying to build it over there. He's also one of the guys who work with Fight for Peace on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
So we're gonna need Imran to come sit down and talk with me and explain
Sure,
Fight for
sure.
Peace. Because one of the things that we want to do for you guys, in return for like you just coming on and sharing your story and just like spending the time and having the reasoning in us. We want to be that platform that when you guys are having these events, you can come and you can talk about it. You know what I mean? We're a small
Yeah.
platform and we are building them thing there. But if you need somewhere where you can come and say, yo, listen, we're having this event or whatever, or
Yeah.
even after the event, we can
Yeah.
sit down and talk about it. You know
That's
what
all
I
I
mean?
reason. Yo, that's
Yeah, man.
appreciated, brother. That's
Yeah,
appreciated.
man.
Big time.
Yeah, because we have to shine a light because we produce good fighters, whether it be boxing,
Very good.
martial arts, MMA, anything, you know what I mean? We produce good fighters, and I don't think we are aware of the level of fighters like that are coming
This
up.
is it.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
really not.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
And I mean, hey,
yeah.
we can't. On that note, we can't end the show without talking about the fact that Aljamain Sterling,
Yes.
Jamaican, big advocate for Jamaica, a man who
Yeah.
was trying to push for us to have a UFC here at the stadium.
Yeah.
Who is now the champion, featherweight champion,
Yeah.
bantamweight champion.
Yeah, man. We feature Al John
He's-
and this man. He have his own video.
He's come, but his fight coming up.
Yeah.
He's defending the belt. The rematch is the 30th of October.
Yeah.
So that is right around the corner.
Alright,
So you
so
don't
yeah,
know
we'll
how
come back
people
and we do the
tune
watch
in.
along.
Yo, we can do a watch along. We can do a breakdown. Anything.
Yeah,
yo.
man. Of
All
course,
right.
bro. Let's get it going, man. You know what I mean? Let's
For
get
sure,
it
for
going.
sure.
Man.
Yeah, man.
Because definitely, we definitely need to see that rematch. We know it got tough.
I got
We know
wrong.
it's gonna be tough. We know it's gonna be
Yeah,
rough.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But we claim them up. Also, we have
Yeah,
the-
come back for the belt, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come back for that belt.
And the worst, Aljo coming off of surgery. God
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah, man. But we know say Aljaga put in the work and we're gonna be in his corner.
Yeah.
'Cause, yo, that man don't go in the ring without our flag wrapped over his shoulder.
Yo, the
bro.
man rep Jamaica hard. They rep it
You know what I mean?
hard.
Yeah, man. So we have
Yeah.
to represent him too. Yeah, so we'll
All the time.
you heard it here first. That will be our first MMA watch along with Kyle.
Bam.
You know what I mean? Coming through.
Yes, sir.
We'll go with the play by play. Yo,
2
bro.
second TKO chin.
Yo, the name, the mighty chin, is that a play on words for the toughness of the chin, or
Yo, you know, say, I think about that today. I say, yo, I don't want nobody know of me for being to take holy palik, you know. I want to make sure I don't take a holy palik.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, man, you don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely a pleasure.
Yo,
bro.
thank you guys. Thank you guys a lot for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. And make sure you come back through the Imran, all right? Or we're going circle
Absolutely.
Spanish Town and look for you.
Yo, man, I have no fighters more to bring on to this, man. You
Yeah,
know what I
man.
mean?
Of course, bro. If you want to bring on one a week, it there for you. You know what I mean?
Alright.
Alright.
Proper way.
All right.